Hello and welcome to the Athletic Soccer Show. It's time for your post-game review of France against Poland. I'm joined by Mr. Rich Amofa. How you doing, mate? You good?
Hey, yeah, I'm all good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm not too bad. Obviously, France have just beaten Poland 3-1. We've watched that play out. And to be honest, Rich, I thought it was a bit of a strange game in many ways because it didn't spark into life in the way that maybe many of these round of 16 games have so far. And off the back of that, I think you go, yeah, France have taken care of business, but they weren't particularly infallible, it seemed.
No, I think that's a fair assessment. As you said, they had to get the job done, which they did. They capitalized, key moments of the game. I think getting a goal just before half time was the killer blow, really, wasn't it? And but as you say, Poland did create a couple of those chances, and if they were able to put at least one away, it would have made the game a bit more interesting. But I mean, France's class, pulled through. They had many gears to go into, which is probably frightening for everybody else. But as you say, they weren't great, but they got the job done, and that's the important thing for them.
Yeah, I completely agree. It did feel like one of those performances you look at and go, well, France have done what they need to do here, and kind of no more and no less in so many ways. And at that point, just before the penalty in the last minute, and to us, I think they're a little bit unlucky. I think it's a penalty, but I don't think there's not much you can do about those kind of things. Yeah. This could have ended 3-0 quite comfortably, and we'd be going, France have just won 3-0 in the round of 16, and as you say, didn't get out of second gear. Now, there's something to be said for the fact that obviously we saw Poland against Argentina last week, and they offered almost nothing to that game. It was very much a one-sided encounter that only had one team winning it. This was a better performance from Poland. I suppose, they had to change something. They went into a 4-5-1 shape. It seemed to work. They got those wingers tracking back and helping with Mbappe and Dembele, which you have to do. You have to double up on those players if you're going to try and shut them down. There's still not much you can do about it, even with two. But I think you have to try and double up on them. And for long periods, it was kind of stifled. But I think, as you say, when France scored that goal just before the halftime break, it kind of was like, well, it's in France's favour for the game to be stifled. They can knock it around the back. And for long periods of this second half, it just felt like they were quite happy to knock it around at 1-0.
Yeah, exactly. I think it got to the point where they assessed Poland, and obviously Poland were able to get at them. But I think getting that goal just before halftime, I think it just settled them, and they knew that they could probably hold Poland out again. Okay, just by keeping the ball. If you keep the ball, opposition can't score, and then it was just a matter of how many they could get, really. But I think you're right. I mean, the fact that Poland were able to create chances, although France were second or third gear, it would give their future opponents some kind of some kind of hope, really, because initially you're thinking, how do you beat France? How do you break them down? But Poland showed, especially out wide, they're able to get in behind, and as you say, they created two fantastic chances that, as I said, if they scored, it would have been a completely different game.
Yeah, it's interesting, that, and I think maybe we should touch on France's fullbacks. Obviously, Theo Hernandez is one of the great attacking fullbacks in the game, but I still think that there are question marks over him slightly defensively. That doesn't mean he's not one of the best in the business, but I think he can get at Theo Hernandez, and I think you have that on that one side, and you have Jules Koundé on the other side, who's not right back by trade. Now, he's played there a fair bit for Barcelona this season. We've seen him do it for Sevilla in the years gone by. But I would say that if you asked him his favoured position, he would probably say centre-back. And so, therefore, when you're looking at the kind of full-back core, you go, can you get in behind Theo? Can you try and get wide and drag Koundé into positions that maybe he's not quite as happy being in as he might be, slightly more narrow, slightly more centrally. And I think you're right in those kind of positions. And it was Kaminski and Frankowski out wide, who I both thought did quite well. Cash was sort of a little bit more reserved than we've seen him at times in this World Cup because, well, he had Mbappe to deal with. So
naturally.
That's reasonable. Yeah, exactly. But, you're not looking at these two Polish wingers. Kaminski and Frankowski are good players in their own right, but they're not also world beaters. And you are thinking, could a team with genuine world-class wingers, like the likes of Brazil, for example, could they get in at this French fullback core? I think you're right. I think the answer is yes.
No, 100%, especially with the first chance. I mean, Poland worked it well from a throw-in, which I'm sure they would have worked on, and a lot of teams work on kind of getting combinations from throw-ins. So although you could say they got in behind easy there, I think Poland did well. I mean, what I would say is that Helsinki got past Kunde far too easily. Maybe he was weighed down by those chains he was wearing on his neck, and somehow got away with it for the first 40 minutes or so. But I mean, he got past him far too easily, and then from there, it's just about have you got the quality? He tried to find Lewandowski at the front post, and he got cleared out to Zelensky. And you're thinking, look, the season he's having so far with Napoli, he's going to put that away, and he fired it straight at the reach. You expect him to do better there. But it's those chances that when you get in behind, when you're able to beat the fullback, do you have the quality to have the end product? And Poland didn't today. But a better side, as you say, Brazil or perhaps in England next game, if they're able to win later, we'll look at that and think, we're going to get joy down the flanks.
I mean, let's talk about the positives of France. Olivier Giroud, absolutely exceptional today, I thought. Now, Mbappe got 2 goals and an assist, but for me, Giroud was probably the best player on the park. Mbappe is a moments player, and we know that. He is a player that can explode his life generally, and did so on various occasions. But I thought Giroud's entire performance was pretty glorious, to be honest. It was the day he took the outright French scoring record from Thierry Henry. Now, as I was saying on the commentary, I imagine it's not going to be all that long before Mbappe comes to take it back off him. But in the present, that is an amazing, amazing accolade for him to have. When you look at the caliber of players that he's up there with, one of the most underrated, I think, players that we've seen in this generation. And the way he takes the ball down on the turn for the first Mbappe goal that sets France on the break, he plays in Dembele, who slides it across to Mbappe, finishes beautifully. But those kind of moments, the fact is Giroud scored one, had one disallowed. It was after the whistle, obviously. It wasn't ever going to count. And also contributed massively to the second goal as well. It was a glorious all-round number 9 performance.
Yeah, you have to say it was Giroud's day today. As you say, he brought everything to the table, and this is everything that we know Giroud can do. He's got the finishing aspect, which maybe there are question marks on that in the past, but he's broken the record. It was a fantastic finish, great first touch, and as you say, the touch for ahead of Mbappe's goal was fantastic, and that is exactly what we know Giroud can do. His technical ability in terms of a number 9. I know there's the cliche, good touch for a big man, but I mean Giroud's first touch is incredible, and he showed up many occasions today.
It's a cushion, isn't it?
Oh, it's beautiful. It's like a pillow. It's just beautiful. I mean, could a defender have pushed up on him and maybe got touched tight so he couldn't turn? I don't know. Maybe he's fearful of the pace of Mbappe and Dembele on either side. But even still, once Giroud gets turned, it's just a matter of, okay, how are France going to score this 3-3-3? And so as I tweeted out earlier, teams work on that 3-3-3 a lot, and it's just a case of when the ball goes up wide, how is the middleman gonna create space for the man out wide, which is Mbappe in this occasion? Is he going to go in the overlap, or is he going to take the defender away? And in typical Giroud style, he made the correct decision to make the run across the defender, took him away, and as you say, left a space for Mbappe to score. And it's just things like that which it takes a striker's game to another level. Of course, the goal scoring and the assist and all of this, but it just does clever bits of movement as well, which takes his game to another level. And we all know Giroud's been great at creating space for his teammates, and again, he proved that today. So it's a fantastic all-round performance from him. He'll go to bed smiling. He's got the record as well, and again, it's a case of how many more can he get in this tournament, because the quality around him, creating chances for him, and can feed off all the stuff in the box, can go on to get much more and extend that record.
Yeah, well, he should have maybe the ball across to him in the first half from Dembele had slightly too much pace on it, but there were chances there for Giroud to have had a hat trick today, and it just didn't quite fall for him in the way that perhaps we might have wanted. But alas, it's one of those. We do have to talk about Mbappe though, because as I say, 2 goals and an assist is a pretty remarkable return from a game where he only really did turn it on in spells. But the 2 finishes are sublime. One of them gives Szczesny the eyes, cuts back across him and leathers it into the near top corner. Second one rolls the ball out of his feet after a pass from Thuram, edge of the box, and pings the postage stamp. One of those strikes where the keeper gets a hand on it and you know he's not keeping it out. There's absolutely no way that is staying out of the net. And that ability to just rock and roll it. They were saying only Jules Fontaine has scored more goals for France at World Cups than Kylian Mbappe. He's 23. It's pretty stunning. And he loves the big lights. He loves the big stage. And he's so supremely confident in his ability.
Yeah, it's frightening to have a player that can just turn it on at a drop of a hat. He's dangerous, of course. But as you rightly say, he turned it on just when he needed to today. I mean, obviously, when you go deep in a competition, you are looking for him to to maybe dominate the game more in the ways which we know he can do. But look, if he's playing at 50-60% and able to get two goals and an assist, it's frightening for everyone. And it's interesting because Michael Cox, one of our colleagues, wrote a great piece on Mbappe earlier in the season saying, okay, he's just a great scorer, but he doesn't want to be an out-and-out striker. He doesn't want to be that guy. He wants to play a bit more like Messi and Neymar in terms of having that build-up and making those through balls. And it was interesting for Giroud's goal when he kind of came off the flank and picked up the ball in between the lines and played that great pass for Giroud. And I was like, okay, that's the Mbappe that maybe he wants to be. But in terms of the goal-scoring element, as you say, two fantastic finishes and finishes where, they're the positions where you want him to get on the ball, kind of on the inside left, and then he can either, as he displayed today, whip it towards the back post or give the keeper the eyes and whip it to the near post, which he loves doing as well. So, yeah, it's frightening to see that at 23 he's got this array of talent and he's only going to get better. As I think as Pochettino said, you like to see him improve his all-round game and maybe get involved a bit more. But again, in a game like this where, France were in total control, yeah, he can play at 60-70% and still turn it on like that. It's frightening for when he is in full flow.
Yeah, completely. And look, this front three, we talked about the fact that Benzema was absent for the tournament. Obviously, just come off the back of a Ballon d'Or winning season. The man is sensational. But in terms of how France play, there are still question marks over whether Giroud fits the balance of this team better than Benzema does. And I would argue that people are starting to come to that conclusion. And that's not any slight on Karim Benzema, because we all know he's world class. But in terms of facilitation, there is an element of, at Real Madrid, everything goes through Benzema, right? He is the main conduit of all their attacking play. This France team has a lot of players who want the ball in these attacking areas. You've got Griezmann there in behind the strikers. You've got Mbappe on the left wing, who's going to want to be more and more involved. And Giroud's selflessness as a player, I mean, maybe that doesn't tally with the goal tally, but, his selflessness as an all-round footballer, I think, has been evident throughout his career. And if you have players of Mbappe who wants the ball on one side, you have Dembele, who is happy to take on 2-3 players on the other. You've got Griezmann behind, who's happy to make those kind of third-man runs, who's able to pick up those spaces and feed in the midfield. The presence of Giroud, I think, is so important to the way this balance is. And actually, when you look at that France front four, I still don't think even Brazil have a better front four. I don't think anyone in this tournament has a better front four than France. I think that is one of the most perfectly balanced, perfectly weighted, and incredibly talented attacking forces in the competition.
Yeah, I think you nailed it with the balance. I think it's really important because with Giroud up there, what he does, because he occupies the centre back so well, he gives them a problem because he can pin both of them, which then would allow and create more space for Griezmann in behind and both wingers. But then also when he comes to feet, defenders know that, okay, his touch is really good. If we get touch tight, we leave ourselves susceptible in behind. If we drop off deep, as we saw with the second goal today, then Giroud can get turned and his end product, I should say, is fantastic. So it really gives defenders something to think about, and it gives France the added dimension. Of course, Benzema is a fantastic player, and it's a shame that we've not seen him at this tournament. But in terms of France's balance so far, which we've seen, it's worked really well. And as you say, it's struggled to find a front four which are better. I mean, obviously England have talent there, Brazil too. But I just like the way the France has come together, and as well with the two defensive midfielders. And I thought Rabiot was fantastic today alongside Tchouaméni, and just their balance is something that teams will have to work out in terms of trying to break them down. So yeah, it's working out really well for them so far, and for all the reasons that I've given. And you just want to see Giroud at full flight, really, as you say. Technically, it's fantastic to watch, and it's interesting to see how many goals he will get moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And actually, I think there's an interesting thing in that France started a little bit slowly today, generally. And I wonder if that was to do with the fact that there were those wholesale changes in the third group game. They obviously lost that game to Tunisia. And you get to that kind of endpoint and you go, wow, okay, right. Is everything going to be able to slot back into fashion? It took a little while. The crazy, scary thing about France is that now they are they're back in gear. And yes, they didn't reach their top heights today, 100%. But they've managed to cruise through around a 16 tie against a Poland side that performed very decently, I thought, today. Generally, this tournament, I think, has been poor from them, but they did really well today. And you look at where that leaves France going into the next game, you go, the momentum's back. Suddenly, they're a terrifying proposition once again for anyone facing them. And I think that's the interesting thing to kind of come out of this game. We've also seen, Rich, all three of the favourites win so far. It's interesting when you get to this kind of stage of the tournament, you go, are there going to be upsets? Are the upsets over? Have we had our fill of upsets in the group stages? So the next kind of couple of days can be interesting to see if this is just now going to be a favourites foot forward for the rest of this tournament.
Yeah, I think when you get to these parts of competitions, that experience plays a big factor, and as we've seen with the favourites who have gone through, in the last 16, they do contain a lot of players who have kind of gone deep into competitions, whether it's in their domestic cups or on the European stage, and knowing how to win games and having that know how to navigate difficult opposition, I think it's invaluable. I mean, you looked at Netherlands yesterday. Okay, fair enough. You would say looked like they ran out of legs, but Netherlands really controlled that game, kept the ball really, really well, and as I say, cruised to victory. And the same with Argentina as well. Okay, the scoreline seemed to be a little close, but you can see that they had the quality. It shone through at times, and especially I think as well now because it's a knockout tie. When it's 1-0, 2-0 getting towards the latter stages, the team who are behind have to come out. Whereas maybe in the group stages, they could maybe sit deeper for that little bit longer and then push forward maybe later in the game. But when you get to
or basically or accept that there's more difference, right? Except you'll be like, right, we're losing 2-0. Exactly. It's favourites in the group. This isn't the major thing. We can kind of sit in and deal with that result. That's no longer an option.
No, exactly. They have to come out and they have to try and win the game. And when that happens, gaps appear. And as you say, these top players, when they're given space, they're lethal. And we saw that today with France. Especially with their second and third goals, and even the first goal. When they're given space and time on the ball, they can be devastating. And it gives them that time and space to prove their worth and show their quality.
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone showing their quality, unless your name obviously is Lautaro Martinez, who couldn't hit a barn door with a banjo yesterday. So we'll leave it there on France, Poland. And all that's left for me to do is say thank you so much for listening and watching. Thank you very much to Mr. Rich Amofa. We'll be back later on to talk about England, Rich.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully we're coming back with good news. I don't know what you think about that, but hopefully, it's good news. And we're talking about a good game, and England are through, touch wood. But really enjoyed talking to you just now, and see you later.
Thank you very much, and thank you for watching the Athletic Soccer Show. We'll see you later on.